Good morning and welcome back to Margin. This morning we're going to jump into savings. The theme for this month is savings, and this is part 2. So let's jump right into it. So there's a level of consumer confidence that you and I have seen in certain sectors as we have navigated this time, and there is actually a index for consumer confidence, and the Consumer Confidence Index actually defined consumer confidence as a measurement of Americans' attitudes about current and future economic conditions. It tells you how optimistic people are about the economy and their ability to find jobs. So they go on to say that if confidence increases too much, then people will spend more instead of saving. It creates higher demand that could trigger inflation. To stop it, the Federal Reserve will raise interest rates. That slows economic growth. It also increases the value of the dollar. That reduces exports because they are now priced higher in foreign markets. It makes imports cheaper, which also reduces inflation. So there's a lot there. There's a lot included in that definition and in the corresponding explanation around what happens when consumer confidence is high or low. And so with that, what we're experiencing is a myriad of different converging challenges right now when it comes to inflation, hyperinflation, stagflation, and many other aspects that have been seemingly uncharted territories, prior to the last year. So this definition of consumer confidence basically outlines not only what it is, but what is affected when confidence drops or when confidence increases. And so when you see that, you see certain aspects, whether inflation or deflation, stagflation, so on and so forth, adjust as demand changes and as the Federal Reserve adjusts interest rates to prevent inflation and so on and so forth. And so with that, it's important to actually know, okay, well, what is the index and what are we comparing against? And I'm going into a level of detail with this because I feel like it's important going into the topic of savings and understanding the consumer confidence and why people are saving and what they are saving for and what you should be saving for and where you should be putting that savings. So it was communicated by the conference board that the index is sitting currently at 89.3. Now, the balance basically put this in context in stating that the current confidence index is still better than its record low of 25.3 in February of 2009. So that was the middle of the recession at that point, the last Great Recession. The record high is 144.7, which was reached in May of 2000. So with that, it's important to look at the fact that consumer confidence is a lag indicator. It is something that they report on after the fact. And it's something we can look back at and see, okay, well, this is an indicator and that drove all these other decisions, and that's why X and Y occurred. So the consumer confidence remains strong even in the midst of a lot of uncertainty. So although this index is looking backwards, it's a lag indicator. It is also important to look at, okay, well, if consumers were behaving a certain way, if they had a certain idea of where the economy was going and were spending more or saving more based on what they understood that the economy was doing, then you can surmise, okay, well, what did that do to savings rates during that time? Now, as we've seen savings rates decline, that shows that our sentiments around the economy, our consumer confidence around the economy is strong. And that is because as people's savings rates decrease, that means they're putting more money into the economy. and they are less scared. They're less concerned about where their job is going to come from in the future and whether there will be jobs available. So in prior episodes, we talked about financial obstacles, and I, in that series, talked about the importance of playing your players on the field, putting your dollars to work on the field, and not just keeping them under your mattress or in a low yielding savings account. But in a time when we are experiencing inflation, when we're experiencing a devaluation of our currency due to stimulus of printing money, and therefore our dollars being worth less because of the circulation and so on and so forth, it is important for us to have places that we specifically put our money so that we are doing our best to curb inflation. So during a time when we are experiencing a devaluation of our currency, it's important to look into options to preserve the value, the currency that you do have. And with that, you may want to look into a high yield savings account. Now, these don't return anywhere near what they did even a year or two ago. But if you are wanting to just hold the line per se and protect the savings you have, maybe for a rainy day fund or something that needs to be easily accessible, you may want to look into something like that. You may also want to look into a money market account or a certificate of deposit. Any of these will be low risk, and they would allow you to preserve your capital. So with that, you also will want to look into, okay, well, how do I diversify also into the market? So it's going to be important that you utilize asset allocation to ensure that your savings are not just all sitting in your savings account. So you'll want to look at other avenues. You may have a 401k through a employer. You may have a separate Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. You may have some other aspects, some different avenues like precious metals. You may have different avenues that you're comfortable with that you could diversify some of your savings in to reduce your overall risk, to reduce your overall volatility in your savings. So in this episode, we have talked about the why. Why is it important for you to set aside savings? Why is it important for you to actually have that built into your plan to spend? And figuring out, okay, am I going to have a certain amount of savings set aside for a rainy day fund, for retiring at a certain time, or living a certain lifestyle, or maybe even building in margin to create options in life. And then from that, we looked at the where. We looked at, okay, where could you allocate to ensure that you have the proper asset allocation? Now, beyond that, it's important to understand, okay, well, how much? That's a big question that people have, is how much do I put in what areas? And something that I call a financial health check reveals that, shows you how much money to put in what areas. And we'll be going through that in an upcoming episode. But the important part is to make sure that you are saving. Make sure that you are actually putting away money for the things that you want to be able to purchase without going into debt, without having yet another burden. And so my call to action today really is to go in and see where you have savings, whether it is a retirement fund, whether it is it's a college fund for a child of yours or for yourself, or if you have that just sitting in a savings account, low yield savings account, where do you hold your savings at? And my encouragement for you is to pull that together and figure out, okay, well, how much do I have? And then in future episodes, we'll go into how much you should have. And if this information is helpful to you, please do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you're reminded to come back on a daily basis. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.